Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that is also a struggling jazz musician. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm super excited because today I'm going to tell you all about one of my favorite games. This is a game I've talked a lot about on the show over the years, but I've never done a review until now. I am, of course, talking about Space Empires 4X from GMT Games. Space Empires 4X from GMT Games is this fantastic game, spoiler alert, about the kind of the grand epic expansion of different races into outer space. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a game that, of course, you can play with 1 player, 2 players, 3 players, 4 players on the base game, and there's all sorts of fun, kooky scenarios you can do and setups you can do, but just in a nutshell, here's how it plays. Each player has kind of a home area. Now, these home areas have chits on them that are kind of double-sided. On one side will be their color, if they're blue, yellow, red, or green, and then on the other side will be kind of some kooky surprise. Now, in between each of the kind of home worlds, you're going to have kind of deep space, and deep space are white chits with surprises on the other side. Now, some of these surprises that you're going to find in your home territories and in deep space are things like colonizable planets. You're going to find some of those. You're also going to find kind of minerals that can help boost your economy later in the game. You're going to find sometimes space wrecks that may give you all sorts of kooky advantages and cool things. But you can also find a lot of perils. There are dangers tokens. If you find a danger, boom, your ships, your fleets are just gone like that. If you find black holes, you have to roll to see if your ship is damaged, and black holes stay there. The danger tokens go away after that. You may find, again, all sorts of other kooky things that are there on the board that can either help or hinder your expansion out into space, hence the Explore. Now, how the game works, too, is you have a number of spaceships available. Quite a few different kinds of spaceships available in this game. But you start with very few until, of course, you build up your logistics and your tech to the points where you can build these bigger, badder ships. But here's what's really cool about this game. It's got a cool fog of war element. Essentially, what you do is you just take one of the chits that has the picture of whatever ship you've got, turn it upside down, and on the reverse side of all your ships is the same generic spaceship. And then you put a chit underneath that has the number. So essentially it's a fleet group. So you don't know if the fleet coming at you has just 1 ship or it's got 4 ships. You don't know how big that fleet is until you actually engage it in battle. Now, you're going to start off the game with just some kind of scouts, but you're also going to have some colony ships that, of course, are going to go out and colonize different planets. Now, when your colony ships go to colonize these planets, essentially you take them there, you can flip them over, but then you put a chit on them saying it's a growing colony. It's only worth 1 point. And then eventually it's going to become worth 3, and then eventually you'll take that off. So you just see the back of the colony ship, which is 5, and that's about as big as your colonies are going to get. Your home planet is always going to be worth 20. You can also build pipelines. Is more of an advanced rule, but it's a fun one. You can build these pipelines from your colonies to your home world, and you get some extra economic advantages for building these pipelines. It's like spaceways, hyperways, in which goods and cargo are moving back to your home world. Now, as you're building up your fleet, you also have to have space docks, of course, that can accommodate them. So you'd have to have 4 space docks if you're building up 4 size 1 ships, but the sizes can be bigger, so you got to make sure you're within the size of the ship you're building compared to your fleets. You can also build some bases and other fun things as well. Now, as you're going out and exploring in the galaxy, of course, you're going to meet those dangers, but eventually you're going to come into conflict with other civilizations, your other players. And combat is going to ensue. Now, combat in this game is really, really cool. Essentially, what you do is you place your units kind of down facing each other. You reveal what they are, whether they are, how many ships you have in that particular group. And you can even have decoy fleets that cost very little money, but simulate fleets. And so the guys are going to think twice if you've got ships out there. Well, what you do is you lay these out. Now, if ever the one side has more ships than the other, that side can essentially screen the excess number of ships they've got to kind of husband them in battle and bring them in at a time that they choose. But essentially, each ship has kind of a letter designation, A, B, C, D, etc., and that's going to determine when it fires. So, the higher the letter, the closer to A the letter, they're going to go first. So then all the A's will go first, then all the B's will go first. The attackers A's, defenders A's, attackers B's, defenders B's, back like that. Of course, if you have like initiative and technology, doesn't matter who's the attacker or defender is. Whoever's got the initiative and technology gets to roll their letters first. So that could be, very, very powerful. Tactics, I believe that's called. You can do that. But essentially, you're comparing your attack rating to the enemy's defense rating. There's also, again, tech that can modify that, but you're rolling the dice trying to hit right in there. And if you hit it, you essentially can damage the ship. Now, again, some ships, if they're bigger, can take more damage. But essentially, that's how the game, that's how combat works in this game. It's simple dice rolling. You're rolling on a 10-sided die, so there's a lot of probability there, a lot of I guess tension there if you're going to hit right into what you need in order to get the hits. But it's a very, very sweet system. Now, as far as movement goes, again, that's depending on tech. Now, there are three different kind of phases you have. 3 turns, essentially, you have that make a round. During each turn there, essentially what's going to happen is you've got so much movement. You got so much movement for 1, so much movement for 2, so much movement for 3. And depending on what your tech is, you get more movement in each of those phases there. Then what's going to happen is at the end of the third phase, you kind of have your economic phase. This is the bookkeeping phase, and I know some people are turned off by this, and it can kind of slow down the action here a little bit. But what's going to happen is you are going to then consult your chart, and you're going to go through a series of steps in order to make sure that your economy is working. But you're going to look at your colonies. How much money are your colonies giving you to spend? You're going to see if you've towed any minerals back to a colony, because that's going to give you money to spend as well, maybe other bonuses. Then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of look at how much money you've got. You're going to bid for initiative, write down how much you want to bid on your initiative. And then you're going to start buying stuff. Now, you can buy more ships, but of course you've got to have the right tech for the right ships. You've got to make sure you got the shipyard capacity for them. But also you're going to be spending on your tech, your technology here. You want to make sure you can get the technologies you need. And there's so many different kinds of technology. As I say, there's tactics technology. There is ship size technology to let you build the bigger ships. There is kind of scanning technology, exploration technology, so you can scan ships without actually going into them and risking it. There's attacking technology, there's defending technology. There's all sorts of different kinds of tech in this game as well. So after you buy all your tech and all of your ships, you're going to go ahead, you're going to place them on the board. You're going to kind of, as I say, advance your colonies, make them grow throughout the game until they reach level 5. Then essentially you're ready for the next series of rounds. Now, you're going to go kind of around and around. Basic game is the first player to destroy his enemy's homeworld or another enemy's homeworld wins the game. There are kind of shorter rules. For instance, I think if you take out 3 colonies of an enemy, that counts as a victory as well. So there's kind of different victory conditions, different things you can play to in this game. But whoever succeeds first in reaching whatever victory condition you've agreed upon is the winner of Space Empires 4X. So, no suspense here. Space Empires 4X has been consistently near the top of my top 100 games list for the last few years. It is just a phenomenal game. This is a great space game. It's got tech. It's got exploration. It's 4X, but I got to tell you, it really feels much more like a war game than something like, say, Twilight Imperium or a game like that. And that's a good thing. I think that it kind of distinguishes this game from some of those others. I don't think of TI3 as a war game. I think it's got elements of war in it, but I don't consider it a war game. I think Space Empires 4X is a war game. To me, it feels like a war game. And it's got all these other great things here, and I don't mean to diminish the 4X in this game at all. I'm saying, but the emphasis to me here is on combat. If you're turtling, if you're stagnant, the game's just not that fun. You've got to be aggressive. You got to fight battles. You got to fight maneuvers, and I freaking love it. Now, I played this game solo. I played it 2-player. I played it 3-player, and I just recently, in some of the footage you're seeing here, for the first time played it as a 4-player game. So I played it pretty much with all of the configurations here. 1-player didn't really thrill me. The solo version, that was all right, but it didn't thrill me. The 4-player game that we just played, honestly, it was a little too crowded, a little too much time in between turns. 3-player was good, but it seemed like you'd always have 2 ganging up against 1. So I got to tell you, for me, this game shines as a 2-player game. As a 2-player war game, to me, this game is phenomenal. I put it up just about against any 2-player war game out there. I think it is great. I think this is a game, too, that has significant depth to it, but not so much that it's overwhelming, and you can customize it. There are certain rules. Like, for instance, there's a rule in the game that says if you upgrade tech, it's only going to be on ships that you just produce, and any ships that are out there of that class have to come back to space dock, and then you have to pay for the upgrading, and then they can go out. And that's pretty complex. I mean, it seems like a thing you wouldn't have to keep track of, but you really have to keep track of it, and you really have to watch it. But guess what? We never play with that rule. We just play with an alternate rule that says, or you can just say they all have the new tech. To me, it's just an easier way to play the game, less of a headache that way. And I love it. I love the fact that you can make this game more or less complex to taste, however you want to play it. And that is, again, tremendous fun and flexible. I love science fiction games. I love sci-fi themes. I love them. I love grand space opera games. This is a game, too, where there's a role-playing aspect. Now, you look at, like a TI-3, which has these, like, elaborate alien character histories, and there's certainly a role-playing aspect there, too. But I almost kind of like the ambiguity and the stories you can kind of create and imagine yourself here in Space Empires 4X, where it's not as... I mean, there's certainly some deeper theme here as well, but not to that extent. And I kind of like that here as well. It works phenomenally. I just adore Space Empires 4X. Years ago, I did buy the expansion to it, Close Encounters. I still haven't played with that, which is kind of a bummer, and I got to find a time to do that. Again, I think the game shines as a 2-player game, and I would love to incorporate that expansion into the 2-player game. But I can't talk this game up enough. It's not for everybody, I'll tell you that right now. Some people will find the bookkeeping tedious. Some people, I just think, will find it a little fiddly, because you do have all the chits everywhere on the board. And I get that. But, man, for me, this scratches a certain itch that no other game really does, and it's been too long. I mean, it's probably been a couple of years since I played this game, and I played it again just the other day, like I say, and it reminded me how much I love this game. And I do love Space Empires 4X. Truly a great game, and I always kind of felt like maybe it was a little underrated. It always deserved a wider audience than it got. And I really hope, if you haven't played this game, go out, buy it, play this game. You will freaking love it. I also just want to mention quickly, last year I reviewed Talon, which is kind of the sequel to this game, which is more of the tactical combat, which is another phenomenal game. But whereas that's, like I say, kind of more tactical space combat, this is the grand epic game. And I think you can integrate the two games as well if you wanted to. But I love them both. Space Empires... is probably, of the two, my favorite. Now, it is of the two my favorite because it is such a grand, epic game. I freaking love this game. Once again, let me just say, buy it. And thank you so much to GMT Games and Jim Korn, who designed it, because it's phenomenal. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Wargame Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. And now... some sweet, sweet jazz. Who am I kidding? I don't really like jazz. I like the Utah Jazz. Not anymore. Not really.
Please somebody help me on my feet again.